So today we will be doing a really simple dinner dish. So we're going to be using chicken breast, spinach, a mix of spices. So this is 1 teaspoon paprika, some salt and some pepper, about 3 cloves of garlic minced. This is about 3 tablespoons of butter. We have half and half cream, some thyme. The original recipe that I use says to use fresh thyme, but I only have some frozen. It's perfectly good. And then finally the recipe calls for white wine, but we're going to keep it halal, and I'm substituting with white grape juice. You can also substitute with something like apple juice. So we're going to get started. It's a really simple recipe that I've tried out once or twice before, and this time I'm going to change it a little bit. So we're going to shift over to our pan now, and I'm using kind of like this metal pan, and so you can use a non-stick, but I like this because it gives a brown texture to the chicken. While that's heating up, we want to add in some butter to that, so I'm going to be taking some of this butter. So the recipe does call for quite a lot of butter. You can substitute a little bit with olive oil, but you still want to retain at least some of the fat content. You don't want to have the temperature too high, so you can see I kind of have it like somewhere between a medium and a high. So we just want to let that melt. See it bubbling inside the pan, so we know it's heated and ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to put the chicken breast into the pan, and by cooking it in the butter, it's allowing it to pick up these flavors really nicely from the butter, while it's also going to start browning the breast. And you're just going to let that sit in the pan for about 3 minutes on each side, and it's going to give this a nice kind of browned cooked exterior. So it's been about 3 minutes, and we flipped it over. You can kind of see it's creating this beautiful golden kind of brown color on the chicken, and that's going to be really flavorful. Add some more butter into the pan. We're going to go ahead and add our garlic as well, which is a little hard to do because I only have one hand. Garlic is that it's so fragrant and wonderful. If you're somebody who doesn't like garlic as much as I do, then you might want to decrease the amount of garlic in the recipe, but I put in about 3 large cloves, and it's going to give this kind of the sauce and leave the flavor on the chicken really nicely. So I do want to baste it just a little bit. And remember that garlic also burns quite easily, so you don't want to have the stove be too high. So I've actually gone ahead and reduced the heat a little bit, also because butter does burn quite readily as well. Now at this time you also want to add in the thyme. What you want to remember is that fresh herbs usually have, dried herbs are usually more potent than the fresh herbs, so you're going to just want to sprinkle some. I quite like the flavor of thyme, so I tend to add a little bit more, but if it's something that's a new herb to you or you don't like the flavor as much, you don't have to add as much as I do. But it'll give a really nice flavor to the chicken as well as to the sauce. I feel like you need to add a bit more butter. You can go ahead and do so. I'm just adding a little bit more. And it's looking really pretty. So what we're going to do at this time is we're going to add our white wine equivalent. So I'm using white grape juice. You can also use apple juice, pear juice. There's a lot of easy substitutes. So the recipe, or the original recipe, calls for about 1 cup. So I'm going to put all of that in. But remember that this is a very, sugary element, and so the sugars might burn up fairly quickly. So you want to be able to check in on them as well. So we have everything kind of put together. I'm going to go ahead and leave it between low and medium, and I'm going to cover this. So we want it to simmer. Will take about 20 minutes. You can check on it in between. It might be ready in about 15. So we'll check back in a little bit. So this is what it looks like when it starts to simmer. Every once in a while you can double check it, just kind of baste it a little bit. Always, every once in a while, just double check on it, make sure nothing is sticking to the bottom of the pan, and that there is enough liquid. If you need more liquid, you can add some stock. You can also add some more juice if you want, but I think like a chicken broth or something would be really nice addition to it. As I've added one of these chicken flavor cubes. This one's from Maggie. And so it was just really going to bring in like a nice additional set of flavors to the sauce. And while it's still kind of going, I think we're going to go ahead and just add a little bit of cream. I'm using half and half cream. You can use full cream if you prefer. You can use milk. You basically just want something that's going to thicken it. Okay, so the sauce wasn't thickening. I've created a mixture of some of the water that was in here, the liquid, and some flour, and this is going to act to thicken it. You can also use something like cornstarch. Just be careful that whatever you're adding, you're not adding too much of, because it will kind of dilute the taste. But flour and cornstarch work equally well in thickening, and we just want to make sure that it fully incorporates all the flavors. And when you're happy with the consistency of the sauce, you basically just want to go ahead and take your spinach. And I had quite big pieces of spinach, so I cut it up. And you just want to put it in. I'm going to cover mine for just a really quick minute and then let it all cook together. And then we'll see the final product.